Hey there. Okay, so we are actually going to do a floor workout today for the hips and glutes and some lower abs. And so you probably have already seen the other two floor series videos, which is more around the technique of some of these exercises. So let's get started. And I've got my mat here. I want to make sure the angle of my camera is correct. Anyways, I'll have to adjust it. So we're going to start by lying on our back. And we're just going to sway our legs from side to side. And this particular movement is what I call like a check-in exercise to kind of see if you're tight or not. And oftentimes, if you're tight, you have a hard time getting your legs over to one side or the other side. And that could be some various reasons why. It could be hip flexor, it could be tight IT band that doesn't allow you to come all the way over, or it could be low back kind of in the hip region as well. And a lot of times when I ask clients, like, oh, they know that they feel tight, and sometimes they can't tell where they're feeling tight from. And sometimes they can, but there's no right or wrong here. So this is a really good indication of where a good starting point is like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling kind of stiff. So you can do a bunch of these here. Okay, so you would have seen these exercises in that little technique video that I mentioned earlier. So now you're going to come back to center and we are going to create space in our lower spine so you can sway your legs a little bit further over. Okay, so we're going to start off by doing some pelvic tilting. So you're going to tilt your hips forward and then tilt your hips back. I'm exaggerating so you can see this on video. It doesn't have to be the extreme, it should just be like more subtle. Pelvic tilting. So I call these like your headlights. So you're going to tilt your headlights towards you and then you're going to tilt your headlights away from you, towards you and away from you, and towards you and away from you. And then from there, we're just going to make circles with our hips. So we're just going to roll our hips around, and you should feel it on the mat with your hips, like you're making a circle. And sometimes it doesn't feel like a circle. Sometimes a circle feels kind of edgy, or sometimes it feels kind of more like an oval. So do your best to make circular motions. And if you're not used to doing this movement, I suggest going a little bit slower so you can draw the circle and create a circle versus some other shape. Okay, so feel that circle being drawn. And then, of course, we're going to go the other direction. Okay, so all this is creating space in your lower spine, and this can alleviate some tightness through the hips, low back, IT band, even. Okay, and then back to center. Okay, and then next we're going to tip our hips. So if these were my hips and they're level at the moment, I'm going to press my right hip down towards the mat and then I'm going to press my left hip down towards the mat. So you can see that I'm not lifting my bum up, right? We're just pressing down, adding pressure at the back of the mat, now on my left side, and then now on my right side. This is one of my favorites, I have to tell you, because you can feel your spine elongating. And in this particular region down here is your SI joint. And when we do a lot of sitting, they tend to get a little bit on the tighter side, usually on one side more than the other, because we are slouching, we're sitting on, we're dumping into a one side versus the other side. Those are just some of the reasons why we get low back problems just from sitting too long. Okay, tipping your hips back and forth. Okay. And then let's do a fun one where you do a figure eight. So I got to think about this for a second here. Figure eight, more like an infinity sign, right? Or a sideways number eight. And if I didn't give you this as a exercise, well, guess what? You got a new one now. Okay, so a figure eight. Same thing. Feel that letter eight being drawn and make sure you're not cutting corners. Yeah, I can feel myself cutting corners on the one side. So you just got to go a little bit slower. All right. And this is kind of fun. Now you got to go the other way. Other way. Oh, there we go. Other way. Yes. Yeah, I'm feeling my number eight's a little on the square side. How about yours? There we go. Okay, and then let's do a little check. Okay, so I can move my legs when I do these hip sways. You can see, or you can probably feel that you're able to have more rotation in those hips, right? So these are just some easy ways to kind of get your hips moving again. All right. And then from there, what else is there? Those are some good ones there. Those are, yeah. And then let's work on the SI joint. I'm gonna post a little image on this video where you can see where it is because sometimes it's hard to know where it is, right? And when you see an image of where the SI joint, you'll be able to understand, oh, that's what it is. Because oftentimes, we're not sitting upright, we're slouching, we're dumping into our low back, and we're elongating and stretching that muscle. And that at times can cause us some problems. Okay. So, SI joint exercise is going to feel and look different on everybody. Okay. So, you kind of figure out what that feels like. Okay. So, I'm going to do it on this leg. I'm going to do it this way so you can kind of see better. Okay, so here in this position, my legs are in alignment. Okay, so like in a reverse tabletop position. I'm gonna bring my knee in a little bit, and I'm gonna fan my leg out a little bit. I'm gonna flex my foot. Okay, so it's somewhere in here, further in, further out, somewhere in this region. And when you start adding pressure, so pressing your knee into your hand and your hand into your knee, you're going to feel like there's this little short muscle in the backside. It's about this long, maybe about 4 or 5 inches long, where it starts. And this is my left side where it's going to be a little bit more, it's weaker on my left side. So I can feel it's getting fatigued when I'm about here. And that is your SI joint. And you don't need to kill it. You don't need to like kill it. You just need to add a little bit of pressure so you can feel that SI joint working a little bit. Okay. So you got to figure out where you need to be. So you got to play around a little bit. So I'll play around here. And yeah, I can still feel it, but definitely my SI joint is going to work a little harder when I bring my knee in and fan my knee out a little bit more. So it might feel different for you. Okay. And then bring it back. And if you need a little break, you just put your leg down. Because if you put too much pressure on, you're going to feel your hip flexors kicking in. And I felt my hip flexors kicking in. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Okay. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to bring it in a little bit, figure out where you need to be, relax your leg, and then just press your knee into your hand and your hand into your knee. And if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can lift the opposite leg up. And then if you're in this position, I need you to tip your hip forward. So I'm going to drop my leg down here for a second. Okay. So you're going to tip, you remember the pelvic tilts that we did earlier? You're going to tip your hip forward just a little bit. We call this neutral spine. So if you over rotate, then you're dumping into your low back. That is not neutral spine. Neutral spine, when you feel that anchoring down here in the tailbone, down on the mat. And then there's a little bit of space. We all have a natural gap between your back and the mat here. Okay. Then lift your leg up and then add some pressure. And then here, you're going to be able to feel that SI joint work a little bit harder. Okay, I'm going to fan it out a little bit and then take breaks when you need to and then release. Okay, so let's do one more. Okay, so you can wiggle around if you want, do a couple little hip sways just to take a little bit of a break. And then I'm going to try that one more time. So bring that leg in. I'm going to tip my hip forward, feel that anchoring down here in the tailbone on the mat. I'm going to bring my knee in, fan my leg out, and then add some pressure. Yeah, there it is there. That's where it feels like work for me. All right. And then bring it back in. Okay, let's try the other side. Okay, bring the leg in. And each side is going to be different, probably. Okay, so give it a try. Bring your knee in, add some pressure, figure out where you need to be, just exploring your body. That's really what we're doing here because everybody's going to be different. There's no right or wrong here. Yeah, there it is for me there. And just adding some pressure. I could feel my And you definitely want the rest of your body to be relaxed. Don't forget to tip your hip forward so you feel that anchoring down on that mat and then release. Okay, let's take a little break. Let's do some hip sways. And again, my legs are just dropping. I'm getting way more range than I did at the beginning. And I find that most people, when they start working out, working the SI joint, it tends to definitely help with more movement in that hip region. So let's do it again. Bring the knee in, fan it out, explore a little bit, go a little further out and see if there's anything there. Does it feel harder? Ooh, it does. Yes, it definitely feels hard. I'm going to lift my other leg up and then now I have to use my abs and my SI joint. Okay. And you don't have to lift your leg up. Okay. But your abs have to be on and then release. Drop one leg, drop the other leg, and do some hip sways. Yeah, I'm already getting relief from that. And I wasn't even, I wasn't feeling bad, that's for sure. Okay, let's do one more. Bring the knee in, tip your hip forward, figure out where you need to be, add some pressure, and you can even add some movement. So I'm fanning my leg out further as I'm applying pressure. So I notice on this leg, my knee isn't as far in as the other leg. And you might be the same, or maybe it's the opposite, right? There it is. And make sure your hips are level while you're doing this. Yeah, definitely down here. I could feel it and release. Okay, let's do some hip sways. Okay. And then I do have a sheet here, but I do have to get my glasses on. Give me 1 second. Oh, yes. No, let's move on to some abs. So for the ab exercise, the lower abs are part of this whole hip region. So I find it important to turn these on. This is a transverse. This is the deepest layer of your abs. Okay. So you've got an option. You can do a block or a ball. It doesn't matter. Or you can do a pillow, but it would have to be a fairly firm one and a fairly wide one so you can put it between your legs. Okay. So let's do it on the floor first with your feet on the floor. Okay. So I'm going to use the block. I'm going to tip my hip forward. So I'm creating that neutral spine and I can feel that anchoring down on the mat. The moment that you do that, you feel your abs turn on right away. Okay. That's the beauty of tipping your hips forward. Okay. Anchoring it down. Now you're going to keep your arms down at your side with your palms facing up. And the reason why we have our palms facing up is that we're not gripping the mat. If you have your palms down, oftentimes I see people like pressing into the floor and all this pressure in your upper body. So nice relaxed arms and tip your hip forward. You're going to inhale first. Exhale, press down into the mat with your spine and then squeeze the ball. Inhale, release. Exhale, press down and a gentle squeeze of the ball. And you can feel kind of like this pulling in of your muscles. Sometimes if people feel it pulling out, there's no right or wrong. Inhale, exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. So you can't even tell that I'm actually working. Exhale, squeeze, because nothing is moving here. So there's no tail tucking as you're squeezing. So you want to feel like literally like you have a stake going right through the top of your pubic bone. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. So how hard am I working? I'm working at like 4 out of 10. Okay. So oftentimes we're working at like 7, 8 out of 10. Not necessary. Okay. When we are isolating muscles, it's better to do less than more because all the other muscle groups around your body are going to take over. And then now we're feeling other muscle groups turn on. And we just want to isolate this transverse here. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, press, squeeze, and tuck your belly in. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, squeeze, and tuck your belly in. And sometimes I see people, and because I just saw as I looked up that I did a little bit of a tilt back this way. So it's really important that you don't do that. And oftentimes, what I suggest is putting your fingers right on the inside of your hip bones so you can feel that contraction. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Let's do like three more. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. And one more. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Okay, so that's the easier version. Okay, so let's take the block away and let's do some hip sways and see if you notice a difference. Yeah, oftentimes turning these on gives you more range in those hip sways. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. All right, there is no right or wrong in how you feel in your body or in the exercise as long as that's your intention. Okay. So if your intention is to turn on the transverse and that's what you did, then that's okay. But if you try to turn on your transverse and you feel your hips, you feel your calves, you feel your toes curling, then that's a different story. Okay. So let's make it a little bit harder on this second set. And if you choose to opt out, you can just drop your feet back on the floor and do the exact same thing. Okay. So the second version is you're going to have your legs up in tabletop. So it's really important to know where your body parts are in space. Okay. So you want your knees stacked directly over top of those hips. You're going to tip your hips forward so you barely saw me move. Okay. If your knees are a little bit further away, it's going to get harder on your abs. And if your abs can't take it, you can dump into your low back and your ribs are going to pop. Okay. So that's what we want to avoid. What we don't want either is we don't want a curled tail. Okay. I want this done in neutral spine. So we attack or we engage that transverse. It's literally like a belt that goes from spine, one side of your spine wraps all the way on the front and into the back. Okay. So place your ball or your block in between your legs and you can have your feet down as your option two. Arms down at your side with your palms facing up. Okay. Flex your feet. Tip your hip forward so you feel that anchoring. Know where your kneecap is in relation to your hip. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. It should just be a little bit harder than if your feet were on the floor. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. If you're feeling your hip flexors, then you're killing it. Okay. I want you to work at like 3 to 4 out of 10, just enough so you feel your abs turn on. And that is it for the most part. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. If you need to take a break and put your feet down, you go right ahead. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly. Make sure your knees are not traveling away from you as you are doing this exercise. Okay, same thing. You can have your fingertips on the inside of your hip bones to feel that contraction. Getting some feedback is a good way of knowing what you're doing is right or wrong. Okay, even though I said there's no right or wrong, but to know that you're engaging those abs. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Three more. Exhale, squeeze and tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. So if you're working at 3 to 4 out of 10, you should still be able to talk and move your arms around. Okay. And release. Take the ball or block out, drop one leg, drop the other leg, and let's do some hip sways. Okay. So we don't just drop our feet with the thing between our legs because you know what? Things can happen. This is the safest way is to remove the apparatus out from in between the legs, drop one leg, then drop the other leg so your back is supported. So how does that feel? So that tightened me up a little bit doing those ab exercises. Okay. All right. Shall we do one more? Yeah, let's do one more. Let's make it a little bit more challenging, even. Okay. And if you want to opt out, you can put your feet back on the floor, or you can do version two while I do this third version. Okay. One leg up, other leg up, block or ball between your legs, stack your knees above your hips, tip your hip forward. You get a little bit of a belly tuck here. You can feel your abs turn on. Arms down, palms facing up. Keep your feet flexed. Okay, here, make sure you watch me first before you do it. Okay, you're going to inhale, exhale, push your knees away a tiny little bit, and then bring it back in. Exhale, press your heels a bit away from you, like about an inch, Inhale, bring it back. Okay, these are tiny little moves, but nothing is changing. My hips are still tipped forward. I didn't on that last one. I caught myself. Exhale, press, tuck your belly in. So you're gonna keep squeezing that block as you move your knee, like literally 1 centimeter to an inch away from you. That is it. So nothing is the shape of your hips are not changing as you do this exercise. Exhale, press, tuck your belly in, squeeze the ball. Inhale, bring it back in. It's the block. Exhale, press. You know what I mean. Exhale, inhale, bring it back in. And one more. Exhale, press. Inhale, bring it back in. Take the bulk out, one foot down, other foot down, and some hip sway. Okay. So if this is killing your back, like 2 minutes ago, you should have stopped. Okay. And take a little break and reset yourself. Okay. That's what you need to. Don't try to push through because oftentimes it doesn't work. You're better off to take a break and then come back. All right. So that's your little ab version. What else we got here? I know I have some hips here somewhere. Okay, we did abs and SI joint. Okay, let's do a little bit of glutes. Yes, glutes. All right, so I've got some bands here. And if you don't have one of these round bands, it doesn't have to be this particular band, it just has to be a round band. I've got three versions here, loose, tighter, and tightest, okay? Or you can use a long band and just tie it, figure out where you need the tension, and then, well, this one's long enough, I can just hang on to it, okay? A little bit fussier, but nonetheless, it will still work, okay? So I'm gonna use the easier band because, why not? Okay, so let's do some SI joint while we're here, okay? So you're gonna tip your hip forward. Okay, so now you feel that stake going right through that pressure at the top of your pubic bone down into the mat, right? So you can feel that natural little groove or curve in your low spine. Okay. I want this to be looser rather than tighter because we're going to work the SI joint, and the SI joint is, I want you to get familiar with that muscle. Okay. So if you have something too tight, you're gonna throw your legs into it, you're gonna throw your hips into it. Okay, you get what I mean. Okay, so there's a little bit of tension. Tip your hip forward, put your hands on your hips or hands on your belly, and I want you to squeeze. So you're pulling the band apart from your SI joint. Okay, I can do it from my glute means and I can do it from my quads. Okay, no, SI joint. Okay, so watch this. I'm barely gonna move, but I'm gonna feel it. Yeah, I'm gonna squeeze. Yeah, and my right side's a little stronger than the other. And I'm gonna release. That was probably even too much. There. There you go. And then really, yeah. So I could feel my right side working harder than my left. So just be aware of that and think about the side that's working less and see if you can get it to turn on a little bit more. And it's not like pull, release, pull, release, pull, release. It's super subtle, super slow. And I want you to focus on squeezing that muscle. Okay. Focus on squeezing the muscle. How do you squeeze the muscle? Well, you have to create that level of not just body awareness, but muscle awareness. Okay. Muscle awareness. So it's going to require a little slower pace and a smaller movement. There it is. I'm going to squeeze it without necessarily pulling on that band any harder. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, my right side is still working harder than my left. I feel like, anyways, everybody's bodies are different, and there's no perfect body in the sense that nothing is really that symmetrical, especially as we get older and release. Okay. See how long I held that for? Yes. When in doubt, just when you think you can't go any slower, you go slower and squeeze. Okay. Feel that anchoring, that pressure down in that tailbone in the mat, and then release. Okay, let's do it again. Exhale, squeeze. There we go. Inhale, release. Good. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, release. Yeah, even requires some concentrating here. Take your time, squeeze. I'm going to squeeze my left side a little bit harder than my right because there's a little bit of discrepancy there. And that's where I'm sore, is in my left side of my low back. Squeeze. Good. And think about where you are sore if you have a sore low back. Is it your left side, your right side? And is it your left side, your right side of your SI joint that is weaker, harder to engage? Couple more. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, see how when you move less, you feel it more? Bingo, that's the ticket. Squeeze and release and squeeze and release. Okay. All right. Since we have the band on, let's do some glute bridges. Okay. So glute bridges, closer the heels are to your bum, more glutes. Further away your heels are to your bum, more hamstrings. Okay. So make sure your legs aren't like all over the place. Feel your toes in relation to your heels. My phone's ringing. Hang on a second here. What the heck? Give me a second. Oh, how do I turn that off? Hold for side. Oh, there we go. Hold for side. Okay. All right. Okay. Where was I? Glute bridges. Okay. Palms facing up. Inhale, exhale, lift and lower. Okay. Inhale, exhale, lift and lower. I want you to think about reaching your kneecaps away from you that way. Okay, reach those kneecaps away from you without arching your back. Your spine is neutral. You are lifting from your bum, reaching those kneecaps. And when you reach those kneecaps, do you feel your glutes more? Yeah, you're getting into the upper part of your glutes, right? Your glutes are or is your largest muscle on your body, right? And a lot of people are strong through probably the bottom part of your glutes, but not enough strength through the upper part. So when you think about, so I have these leggings that have a seam kind of down here, and you probably do too, because everybody's making leggings the kind of the same thing. Okay, I want you to get into the bottom edge of your seam in your butt. There, squeeze those glutes. Feel your left side, feel your right side. Are you twisting your hips or are they level? Okay, be aware. Yes, so we're not just going up and down, up and down, up and down. I want you to think about squeezing those Charmans, lift and squeeze. And then we do have the band on, so you've got a tiny bit of tension on there. And you're going to feel those hips a little bit, and you probably might feel that SI joint as well. Let's do a few more. Let's go 4. See how slow we're going? 3. Yeah, hold it. Yeah, hold it. And then lower. Here's 2. Get under, get into that underside of that seam of your leggings there. And one more. Inhale, exhale, super slow, all the way up. Reach those kneecaps away from you. Hold it there. Hold it there. Reach those kneecaps even further away. Hold it there for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, oh, did that burn or what? Let's just take these off for a second. Oh boy. And then sway your legs. This is always a a good go-to. It just feels good, right? And if you want, you can just come into a spinal twist. Yeah, do some spinal twisting because who doesn't love spinal twisting? I certainly love my spinal twisting. Just feels good. Yeah. Okay. So you would have felt your glute max, the biggest part of your muscle. Then you have your glute medius, which is your hips. And then you have your glute mins and then your SI joint. Okay, let me just show you where the SI joint lives, which I probably should have done this at the beginning, but I forgot. Okay, so SI joint, I'm gonna show you an image on. So it's literally right here. So here is my seam. It's literally right here. The little muscle. It's right there. Okay, that's the SI joint. All right. So let's do some more hips with the band. All right, let's go. Trying to figure out the angle. There we go. That's a good angle. Yeah, I want to show you an angle where you can see kind of where my body parts are. Okay, so you are here. You're going to tip your hip forward, and then you're going to squeeze the band. Okay, so this time, okay, first of all, I should have showed you where the glute medius are. Glute medius are here, kind of like the side part of your bum. Okay, that's where your glute is. Kind of like not quite your jean pocket. Jean pockets will be back here, kind of a little bit further out. Okay, so that's your glute medius, right? So that's where I want you to squeeze the band from. All right, so let's be down here and tip your hip forward. I want you to squeeze the band and put your thumbs back here. So can you see that? Okay, and I want you to feel the squeeze of those glute medius as you so you can notice the difference between your glute medius and that SI joint with the band is I'm externally rotating my legs more to get into my glute medius. Okay. So make sure we're not bum tucking as you're doing this. Keep your hips tipped forward. All you're doing is moving your legs inside that hip socket. Exhale, squeeze, little gentle tuck of the belly button. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze, tuck your belly in. Inhale, release. Do you feel where your thumbs are? Do you feel that engagement of the hip muscles, your glute medius? Okay, so make sure we're not tucking as you are pulling. If you're doing that, it's because your glute max wants to take over. Okay, don't let it take over. Just do your glute medius. Squeeze and release. So that means you might have to open your legs a little less, do less, work less. So work at like 30%, maybe even 20%. Okay. It's definitely not 70%. Less is more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. Good. And be gentle with that band. Feel that? Those are your hips. Those are your glute medius. Are your hips moving? Yeah, mine did. I saw it in the camera or on the video. Squeeze. There we go. And squeeze. And squeeze. Let's do a few more. Let's go 5, 4, 3. Here's 2 and one more and 1. All right. Okay. We're going to stop there for now. I'm going to pull up a slide for the hip muscles, and we're going to have a second video to do some more glutes and hips. Alrighty? So I will see you in the next video.